I didn't like Naruto. Hey everyone, it's MK. Welcome to episode 2 of MK Rants, a podcast where I, your host MK, will take you on a journey talking about anime or a topic that currently interests me. On occasion we shall dabble into cartoons, but today we are diving into the world of Naruto. Now, like I said in the beginning, I didn't like Naruto. Naruto is a classic and is what is considered part of the Big Three, which is a term you might hear tossed around, but basically it contains Dragon Ball, Naruto, as stated previously, and Bleach. I might do an episode on the Big Three, as I think it is a very loaded topic that opens a lot of discussion circles, but that is currently what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about Naruto. So as expected, Naruto isn't the greatest. I know a lot of people have nostalgia to it, but to set the scene a little bit, I was a new anime watcher, and I think I had watched 3 animes, I think at that point. I had watched Inuyasha, both Fullmetal Alchemist series, and Hunter x Hunter. So I guess it's 4 if you consider both Fullmetal Alchemist series. But Hunter x Hunter was kind of how I came to Naruto, as it was a classic, and that's what I've been told, it's like a classic, and so that's kind of how that's how I was introduced to it. It was like, oh, this show is so good, it's a classic, you should watch it. And my friend recommended it to me and was like, it's so good, and I was like, alright friend, I trust you. This friend also recommended Steven Universe, and I never finished Steven Universe, so thanks friend. But Naruto, I stuck around until the point, I think, where Naruto and a couple others were gonna go get Sasuke because he ran away because he's a jerk. And that's kind of where I stopped. I only stuck around, so I think I was at the 5-season mark at that point, but I dropped off just because I had a problem with it, and I stuck around for so long because I really liked the first arc. The villains in that arc were compelling. I really liked the story. I really liked them going like on a mission and seeing the Mist Village. That's what the village was, right? I really liked Haku and Zabuza, and I thought they were great. But the rest of the series let me down, and I wasn't emotionally moved by the characters. So that tackles the first issue, the characters. Let's start with the main 3. I don't know, I might get to the side characters, but we're going to start with the main 3. Sakura. She was unremarkable and a flat character. The best comparison I could have was like a plank of wood. You hear that expression a lot, but she was a plank of wood. She was someone who I think should have stood up for herself, and I wanted to see her be more of a support than a love interest, which I think is a running theme with Naruto. A lot of the female characters tend to be supports, or don't tend to be focused on as much as the guys, and as a whole they get flat characters. The whole Hinata Sakura battle to me is kind of pointless because while I preferred Hinata, I could see why Sakura was a good character, but I personally just couldn't find anything enjoyable about her specifically. She just seemed relatively flat and uninteresting, and as a whole just seemed obsessed with Sasuke, and that was her one personality trait. Naruto was a generic shonen protagonist. Nothing remarkable about him, and his goal is just simple. It's nothing that I would say is opening. He wants to become the Hokage. It's very similar to how Asta and Yuno want to become the Wizard King. We'll get to that in a bit, but that's all I have to say about Naruto. Sasuke is just a jerk. I don't like how he slapped away every helping hand that came to offer him support. He just seemed like revenge was his only motive, and that's not a good thing. When a character's revenge is their sole motive, the character becomes very flat and one-dimensional, in my opinion. And we never saw Sasuke think, wait a second, what happens after I get my revenge? We never saw that, so I couldn't really connect with him on a fundamental level, and he's not that attractive. I'm sorry, Itachi wasn't that attractive either, but it's that. Also, I might get to the, you know what, I'm gonna touch on it here, but when they introduced Itachi, I wasn't a biggest fan of that introduction. as he was built up to be one of the main bad guys of the series. I never watched to Shippuden. Everyone was like, watch to Shippuden. It's so much better. But to me, it's like reading a book, but not getting into it until the second, book. It's very redundant to me, and I don't see why I should have to watch 2 shows to get into a franchise. Because, it's a waste of my time personally. And so, Itachi was built to be this threat, like I said earlier, but he just knocked on Naruto's door. That wasn't my personal favorite way to introduce a villain, as it made him less of a threat than what he really was. And so because of that, I kind of didn't like him as a villain, because I was expecting this big, introduction, this, battle, something or other, this shaded figure. But, excuse me, it was just him knocking on Naruto's hotel, room. I feel like I talked to someone at some point, and they were like, oh, it's because he was such a big threat, he didn't have to, scare anyone, he could just do it. But as viable as a reason that sounds to some people, to me it doesn't explain why they did it anyway. I shouldn't have to feel like the villain is no longer a threat if he comes up and knocks on the hero's door, if that makes sense. The 3 Sannin, they were unremarkable. They were all kind of weird and I couldn't get it, but I think they are parallels for the heroes. Orochimaru was supposed to be a representation of Sasuke. Jiraiya was a representation of Naruto, and then Tsunade was a representation of Sakura, I think. At least that's a theming I got, but I don't think it came through really well, and so I think it is a stretch to say that these heroes are supposed to be, that the Sannin are supposed to be, comparable to the main trio. Itachi, he was okay. He was unremarkable again as a teacher. I didn't really like him, and I liked the side cast better than the main lead group. That's not a good thing. I shouldn't like the side characters who get less development than the main heroes. But that's just because I'm very biased to second leads. I really liked Killua. I really liked Noelle. I really like Lucy or Gray or Urza, but I couldn't feel that way for any of the main characters in Naruto. I didn't like the main trio. Kakashi. His name's Kakashi. Oh, I'm stupid. How did I forget that? It's not Itachi. I'm sorry. Kakashi was unremarkable as a teacher. I didn't like him. He was okay in the beginning, but then he got weirder and weirder, and I didn't like it. Or he just felt like he had no motives other than hey, I'm gonna train you, Sasuke. And Sasuke was, we're gonna do this. And so I liked the side characters. I liked Rock Lee. Rock Lee was great, but I shouldn't like him more than I like the other characters. And let's use Fairy Tail as an example. I really like Wendy, right? But I really love Urza. And Urza, the difference between Wendy and Urza is Wendy is technically not part of the main group, but Urza is. And if I had to choose between the two, I would pick Urza because I love her better than I like Wendy. And considering how I think it's a good analogy because I like Rock Lee, but he's not part of the main cast. He's a side character. But if I had to choose between him or any of the main characters, I would pick him just because I think I like him better. Next is story. Like I said earlier, I think I liked the first arc where they went to the Mist Village. That's the main reason why I stuck around. I thought it was great. I liked the characters. I liked the villains. I thought they were interesting and compelling, and the story was just good. Then it just went downhill from there. None of the characters seemed compelling to me. None of the villains really felt like a threat anymore. The whole Itachi Sasuke thing kind of fell through. It fell flat, and it didn't have any weight to it. And everyone has told me, wait until Shippuden. That's when it gets good. And I don't want to watch Shippuden. I shouldn't have to watch Shippuden. I should like the original series. I shouldn't have to watch 2 series to get into a franchise. That's so dumb to me, because it's such a waste of my time. I watched the original series because I wanted to get a feel for who these characters were. I didn't just want to get dropped into Shippuden and like I know who they were. Like I knew the characters' names because they're literally part of pop culture itself. But I couldn't motivate myself to start Shippuden first. And I think that's why it's bad. And that's why I think I personally have just stopped. Because I was like, you know what? I don't care if Shippuden is better. It's not worth it to me. And I physically am not capable of, like, wasting my time anymore. Because I shouldn't just... Because I can't get past how bad the first series is. What guarantees that Shippuden is better? The world building. It's not bad, but it's not my favorite. That's how it's mid. It's a mid-tier world. Because they live in a world where ninja are a big part of it, and where there are like different villages with different like ninja, I couldn't get over the fact that they just didn't explore the world around them. Again, going back to the first arc because I really liked it. They explored the world to me. But they didn't do that after that arc, or at least not in a good way. Everyone kind of came to the village. They didn't, like, go out of said village. Or if they did, it was for a filler episode. And in which case, that's so dumb, because Naruto's filler episodes are just filler arcs. They're not episodes, they're entire arcs. Oh my gosh, it's exhausting, because at some point, you forget where the story is. You would think that the filler arcs, I will keep emphasizing arcs because they're entire arcs, but you would think that they would tie into the story. They don't at all. They just jump off a cliff at that point. And then another thing is that because the way the ninja training works, they have, like, separate, like, squads, like, squad 7, squad 6, squad 8, 9, 10, 11, 100, 59. I don't really care at this point. But they should have explored that as well. It's the same problem I had with Black Clover. They didn't explore the other squads except for, like, a few characters. At least in Black Clover, the characters they showed us were reoccurring characters. Unfortunately, they didn't do that with Naruto. They would show up every, like, 65 episodes and then just, like, peace out of existence again. And I was like, boy, what the heck? It's so dumb because I couldn't... Okay, I want to calm down. We're calm. Because it was so dumb to me because... Why would you even, like, introduce this concept if the characters that are going to be reoccurring don't even, like, have an, like, essential necessity to the plot? They're not fueling it in any way. They're not giving motivation in any way. They're just existing, in a space that I cannot describe to you because it's so dumb. And then it's so dumb because... Okay, I'm going to try to explain it. Because, like I said with Black Clover... At least when they explored, like, other members of, like, different squads, they would bring them back, right? They won't just drop off the face of the earth for, like, 58 million years and then come back and it's like, hi, I'm gonna make an on-screen appearance, give you a couple instructions, and then peace out again for the rest of the show. At least Black Clover, like, gave me that semblance of, they're back again! Yes! You guys go! And then, I shouldn't like side characters who have, like, no screen time over the main cast because it's sad to me how I like characters who don't even get developed as fully as the main characters. And that's, I think, one of my main problems. The writing. if you don't like writing women, then don't write women. That's all I have to say. The writer of Naruto, I think, has stated in an interview that he just does not like to write women, and it shows. The women are very much in a supporting role here, and fight me. I dare you to prove to me why Sakura is a main lead and is stronger than, let's go with Hinata. You know what? No, let's not. Then who am I gonna pick? For all you Sakura stans, prove to me that Sakura is better than Hinata. You know what? I'm gonna stick with that. And why you think she's better than Hinata. And do it in a formulated way that has an actual reason. I'm just gonna ignore the comments that are like, oh, but she's better anyway. Because, like, you're only proving my point. I dare you to try and fight me on that. Because honestly, I think it's a losing battle for both of us at that point. The Hokage. It's so dumb. I think it's because I personally didn't see the Hokage interact much with the village that I couldn't really feel like they were important. They just sat in an office with paperwork all day, which doesn't do much, and it just makes them feel like very distant characters who are more of like a object or a goal marker than like actual characters. When the third Hokage, I think it was the third Hokage, because Naruto's dad was the fourth Hokage, right? When the third Hokage died fighting Orochimaru, I didn't care, because I don't think I saw him enough interacting with the village that I got some sort of semblance of character. I think Tsunade is the same way. She just healed Rock Lee's back, and then it was like, all good fam, I'm gonna go peace out and do paperwork. Do you want to compare? Do you want an example? Well, I want to compare, so we're gonna do that. That was very loud, I'm sorry. But the Wizard King from Black Clover, while having to sit in an office all day doing paperwork, hates it. He hates doing paperwork. So he sneaks out and interact with the cast and the world, and it makes us care about him more and more, because you feel like he's a character who has motivation and has goals. This is what the Hokage also lacks. Character. And the Wizard King is much more entertaining than any of the Hokages, believe it or not. And personally, I've heard that Naruto fans, Dragon Ball fans, like Bleach fans, really hate on Fairy Tail, but I love Fairy Tail. So I think the hate is unjustified if you take a look at it. Because if anything, I think like Fairy Tail is leagues better than Naruto, but that's just my bias here. But even before I watched like Fairy Tail, I really just disliked Naruto. And like going back to it, I don't think the Hokage is like a great character, and like doesn't do much in the form of like, do this, yes, encouraging words. Another example, do you want another example? Well, it's too late, so here we go. So, Gramps from Fairy Tail, or the Guild Master, is always involved with what the guild's doing. He's never forgotten, he's always mentioned, it's always known that he's either in the forest, he's in the building, talking to his guild. He's not just stuck in an office all day, he's a good leader, and he really does love the guild. To him, they are his children, and he will protect his children. And you see him say that several times throughout. You feel like Gramps is a character who has semblance to him. You think of him as an actual member of Fairy Tail. He's not just a shell of a character. He is important. And I think that's why maybe the Wizard King is a stretch of a comparison, but I think Gramps and the Hokage is a fair comparison, because he's actually involved with his guild, and you know, the Hokage really isn't involved with the village. He's just there, and that is why I think he lacks a lot of the semblance that a lot of other characters do in this show. Why on earth do I have to care about the Hokage when he just sits in an office, or she sits in an office, or they sit in an office all day trying to do paperwork? Why on earth should I care about that when there are other much better like people in different anime who actually care about what their squad is doing, or what their guild is doing, or what their like organization is what makes a good character. It's what fundamentally should motivate the characters, but that's not the case here. For me, and when I write my story, that's not what I try to do. My characters have a goal, but it's not based around becoming or replacing the previous like leader or whatever. For them, it's to destroy something that causes pain and causes harm, but they have to fight with the villains. It's a constant battle between who's gonna get it and who has it, because it's not always sure, because even the heroes aren't always sure where it is. It's constantly moving. And if I were to have a story like that, I would try as hard as I could to make said leader be like some semblance of existing, and some semblance of is a part of the world, right? And I shouldn't have to feel like I'm not, like the character's not connected to the world, because that's not what I want. I want to feel sympathy for the people who are leading the world, or leading the village, or the town, or the empire, because that way you get a better semblance. But again, the Hokage just doesn't have that, in my opinion. So, I don't know what else to talk about here. As a whole, Naruto is a classic, but to me, it just doesn't have that. You know what I'm going to touch on? Sasuke and Naruto's relationship. They hate each other for no valid reason, in my opinion, or nothing that I could really, like, see. Whenever they fought, I was, like, very angry. Like, I was yelling at my screen, like, stop being, like scumbags to each other, because you don't have a reason. And maybe this is my bias coming from Hunter x Hunter, where Gon and Killua were such good friends, but I didn't expect Naruto and Sasuke to be friends. I expected them to be good rivals, be frenemies, like Gray and Natsu from Fairy Tail. Can you tell I really like Fairy Tail? But I couldn't get behind the fact that they just wanted to beat each other up. That's something that Naruto and Sasuke lacks for me. It's a semblance of character. It's a semblance of, oh yes, these people hate each other for a valid reason. And I think that's definitely like the biggest part of why I think I also just dropped the series, because I was just genuinely disinterested in the characters' like journeys as a whole, right? And like just disinterested in them because they didn't really have that semblance of character. And I'm gonna put this disclaimer here. I probably should have put at the beginning of the video, but this is my opinion. My opinion does not need to affect your opinion of a show. If I would recommend Naruto to someone, I would never recommend Naruto to someone. But if they were to ask me, hey, should I watch Naruto? I would be like, ha 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 ha, he. No, don't watch Naruto, please. It is such a waste of your time. It is not good, and it shouldn't. And while I understand that it is a classic and did a lot for a genre, I personally don't think it deserves like all the attention it gets, because it just doesn't need it. And I don't think that, and I get for a lot of people who are nostalgic for it, that's why they like it, but I don't have nostalgia, and I don't have the attachment that a lot of older fans do. So it's sad how I get yelled at whenever I'm like, oh, I personally didn't like Naruto, because like I just get yelled at all the time. And I think that's what motivated me to record this podcast. It was the fact that, hey, I don't like this, and I'm going to explain why I don't like it, because I'm tired of just like explaining things to people and them just not caring. It's sad and it's redundant for me personally. But if you like Naruto, again, that's not a bad thing. I just personally don't like it, and please don't shove it in my face how you guys think it's good and how I'm wrong. No opinion is wrong unless it directly hurts people or invalidates people. Actually, there's a lot of ways opinions could be wrong now I think about it, but my opinion is personally not wrong. It is something that I have formulated over time after watching the series, and that's just how it's gonna be. So, just to briefly wrap up, I have a couple other ideas for podcasts, and the one I might do next is not going to be negative. It's probably going to talk about Psyche K, The Disastrous Life of Psyche K, which is hysterical, and a comedy anime, and we're going to do it. So, I hope that's next time. So, if you hate the fact that I've been really negative these past, 2 episodes, I'm sorry, and I have nothing to say to you. If you're, if you're new here, consider liking and subscribing. If you're recurring, please like my video if you can, or resharing it, or anything. That would help me so much, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to me. So this is MK signing off. Bye!